Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram, and this is fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 331. Hopefully, you've had an amazing day. I know I've got an amazing guest with us tonight. You've seen him around the chats, and now you're going to see him firsthand. Chetterbob13. You want to tell us how you're doing and where we can find you tonight?
Hey Eagle, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Let's see. I'm out of Maine. I'm out of the coast of Maine, a place called Mount Desert Island. So it's pretty late here. Um, but yeah, um, I'm out on the coast of Maine. I live on the same island as Blue of Green Tank. I don't know how many people have heard of him on the guests or on the chat, but we've been friends for a long time. So, we bounce ideas off each other here and there, and yeah.
Nice. And it's Chetterbob13 on Instagram, right? Is that how they can find
Yeah,
it?
Chetterbob13 on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Cannabis. So,
Right on, right. Appreciate taking the time to come hang out tonight. You are in the chats quite a bit. I appreciate you being part of the community, man. It takes everybody to make this thing happen, and thank you for being in chat and taking the time to hang out tonight, brother.
absolutely, man. And you know, I've been growing for 20 years, and as you know, 20 years ago, there was none of this sort of stuff going on. It was all very hush hush, and with the explosion of the internet, like the amount of information available to us now, and shows like yours that just are so full of open source information. um it's amazing. It's so helpful to all of us that have been doing it for years, and for all of us that are just starting. um so you know Hats off to you, man. Like, you you're part of the reason why all of us are learning. You and Subcool and Future Cannabis Project, and all of you guys, like, putting all of us in one platform to be able to learn from each other is A1. So
I agree very much. So it sounds like we're checking in right about the same amount of time on the grow there. I've been about 20 years plus or minus a few months there, but you know, I'm jealous of a lot of these people that are just starting out or have started out in the last few years. Like you said, man, they've got such a better start than we had when we started out, man. I mean, it was all trial and error. Nowadays, man, you want to start to learn to grow cannabis, you flip on the YouTube or whatever, and it's endless. Whatever you want to know, it's right there.
yeah, it's there right in front of you. And you talk about growing pains, like people that have been doing it as long as we have, and for in even shorter amount of time for some places. Like, man, you were talking trial and error. Was, if you got lucky, you met an old head that grew killer cannabis and would, maybe show you a couple tricks or tell you a couple things. But all those secrets that all of us take for granted now, um, they were held really, really tight. So uh, it's just crazy how far this world has come. Everything right at our fingertips.
You just kind of mentioned another thing there is the secrets that we would have had back then, you held on to. You know what I mean? And nowadays, it's like you walk in, you're like, that's what you lead out on. You know what I mean? Have you seen what I've been doing? You know what I mean? That's the first tip you're giving away in hopes
Yeah,
that, you're going to get a little bit back, and it's really great what a community we had.
yeah, and like, so for me, as a 20-year grower. I grew my first plant in 2000. I just recently fallen off a cliff, and I crushed my throat. And so after that, I was supposed to be on a whole bunch of, pharmaceuticals and stuff, but I had family history with that sort of thing. So I was like, no, I don't want to do the pharmaceuticals. So I started growing cannabis and using hash oil way back then, for my pain, discomfort and stuff. And I just never stopped. So, I don't even know where I was going with that, but
so we're gonna kind of bouncing all over the place, but
yeah, that's me and my ADD. I'm just kind of like bing, 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 bing. So bear with me if you can.
Oh no! It's I can tell this is gonna be a good conversation already. Yeah, when it leads off like this. When we get ahead of ourselves right off the bat, that means that's a good conversation ahead. We haven't even had a chance to start from the beginning yet, but I can't help but wonder, how high of a fall was that, man? And it's pretty awesome that you were rock climbing, by the way, first of all.
Awesome. It would have been super awesome if I was rock climbing, but unfortunately I was 19 years old doing 19-year-old stuff. And there's actually like a cliff walk right on the water. I live on an island. It's like pretty much a resort island in Maine. And, I had been drinking all night, and I was smoking some cannabis. And I did the flounder flop. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's what we call it up here in Maine, the flounder flop. So when
tell me.
Sometimes when you take a hit of cannabis and everything kind of, and you get the little black kind of like sparkles. Do you ever get that?
Yeah,
on a real good zinger? So that happened to me, and I fell off the walkway. So it's about 18 feet down to these like jagged rocks with the water coming up. And I fell like a lawn dart, just head first, unconscious, and landed on my throat and crushed my cricoid cartilage. My friends picked me up, and I climbed back up the cliff and walked to the hospital, and got shipped down to Boston. They did an experimental surgery on my neck, and the rest is history. So I have like a titanium throat.
That's insane. You're lucky to be here with us, talking to us now.
Yeah, the doctor said that, well, this is the first surgery that had ever been performed. So completely experimental, first one in the world. And he said the only damage that people had seen with that type of trauma to the neck were on cadavers, were on like studied dead people that they actually do work on to learn, in medical school and stuff. So funny enough, come to find out that my doctor, the guy that basically saved my life, is the same doctor for like Bill Clinton and Adele and Mick Jagger. And so he's like a celebrity doctor, and somehow I just ended up on his list of people to help. So pretty thankful for that.
Yeah, that's a hell of a luck of a draw for a doctor there as well. But
yeah. So yeah, but like I was saying, for me as a home grower and being a self-professed very lazy home grower that does it for a hobby, seeing some of your guests and some of you, yourself included, that are also perhaps doing it home grow, but the knowledge that you guys retain is amazing, and that you give out is in such easiest way to put it is a learnable way for those of us that perhaps, you know, aren't so focused on the exact functions of what's happening in the soil. You guys give us a glimpse into that world, you know. It's awesome. Like myself, I have all of Lowenfeld's books. I've read them, but for some reason it doesn't click with me. So I go on intuition, plant intuition, soil intuition, and stuff like that. So to hear your side of it, or not your side, but that side of it explained in such an easy way is awesome.
That's Smiley and a lot of great people they bring on. That's for sure. There is so much great knowledge out there, and it is, you know, I think it's better come from, like you said, from grower to grower, because they've taken the technical terms out of it, like you said, in more of a epicate way. You know, it's, hey, let's cut the bullshit out. It's X X X. Follow that, and you're got a recipe for success.
Exactly. They can cut it down, but then they can also explain to you like exactly what acid interacts with what gland in the plant, and, you know, hits what cycle in photosynthesis with which spectrum. Like the retention of that knowledge is, I'm very jealous of that in a sense.
Me too. A lot of them, the way I'm actually jealous of the way a lot of them can hold back all the strains. You give them a strain, they give you the lineage right off the top of their head, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, I write that shit down. For some reason, I've got a brain that picks up like song lyrics. You know, I can hear a song once and be able to usually repeat it back to you. But a lot of these strain names or strains, genetics and stuff, I have to write down. I have to write it down. I'm jealous of like Jack and them guys that can sit there right at the top of their head.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I mean, I have some things that I'm really good at, but like that cannabis stuff that those guys spit out, I'm so envious. It's, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm like, so I have this 12 seed cover crop. I have a 12 seed cover crop. I'm going to use it. I know there's clover. I know there's some vetch. I know that they're nitrogen fixing. I know that process, but you know, if you asked me to explain it in proper terms, I wouldn't be able to do it like they do it, you know? And I don't know if that makes me less knowledgeable or what, but it's just something to behold when they start talking. It's like, it's a beautiful art. They're savants.
You know, it doesn't make you any less of a grower to not understand the complete process. I
Yeah.
don't think that in any way, shape, or form. You know, I've said this a lot of times, comparing it to, you know, like a race car driver. A lot of them guys get in there and drive the car. They give two shits on how the motor runs or whatever. They want to drive. Their thing's fucking driving. They're not wrenching on it. You know what I mean? So it's basically the kind of same thing. You know, you don't necessarily need to know every little intricate detail to be able to grow the plant. You know what I mean? But that's in the same aspect. That's one of the beautiful things of this plant is, you know, it seems to bring the better out of you. Once you throw them seeds in the ground, it's like an instant character change. You know what I mean? You find yourself just kind of concentrating on that plant, and it becomes more of a spiritual grow. It really does. You know, you come in there, it's almost like a meditating experience while you're doing your de-leafing, your defoliating, and all that.
It's a ritual.
Stuff. But yeah, and then as you progress, it's making you want to learn more and more. It makes you a better person. You know what I mean? You start wondering how all these processes go. I mean, did they sit there and make this stupid stoner stereotype? But I don't know that of any grower that I know of. Every grower that I know of has like a young mind, if you will. You know, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. It
Yeah.
isn't, you know,
Cannabis
it
sponge.
brings, yeah, it brings the best out of you. It really does.
Yeah. Um, like I found that I've always grown uh, organically for myself. I have used bottled nutrients for other grows that I've done for other people, but always organic for myself. And I took a few years off after kids and got back into it once Maine finally legalized it. And Blue showed me his living soil setup, and it blew me away that I hadn't been doing this for so long before that. Like, I was your typical organic user, maybe use your soil twice, but then you chuck it out in the woods, and then add all your stuff back into the next soil. Because when I was growing, we didn't put two and two together with the worms and the microbes and the rhizosphere and how all of that was so symbiotic. So we just dumping it out. Mycelium, mushrooms are popping up. You'd be like, oh no, you gotta kill those. What? Mushrooms, it's too wet. You gotta let it dry out. So when I found this living soil method, it completely changed my view of organic growing. It made me care about something more than just my final product, just the plant. Like, now I care about what's in the soil, what's going on in the soil, because I understand that there is something going on. It's not just the roots are finding some nitrogen here and finding some phosphorus and blah 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 and gobbling it up. There's actually a system going on. So there's I feel with living soil comes this understanding of a whole nother realm of life. Like Horton Hears a Who, you know what I mean?
I do. It is a whole separate thing there. It's a fascinating little world going on there. The way plants can interact with each other, the way, they can pass nutrients. There's a lot more that's going on there that meets the eye. Once you start, pulling back that carpet, if you will, it is pretty fascinating, everything that's going on
Pull back the hood.
there. Yeah. So before we get too deep into the grow, I guess let's start back from the beginning. Let's find out, your first time when you smoked and what led you up to actually, growing
Oh
it
man.
all out.
So I, to be honest, I was that kid that everyone hated up until I was about 17. So I was huge into sports. I, like every kid that age, you want to be a professional sports athlete. So all of my focus was on sports. And then I blew my ACL out, and that was pretty much the end of any sort of high school sport career I could have thought of. So I think I was about 17 was the first time that I smoked. So around 90, 96, 97. And it was with a friend of mine in the back of this like super rich person's woods, just kind of sitting there, and he pulled some out and we smoked it. I think he stole it from his parents or something like that. And yeah, that was my first introduction to cannabis. And then I didn't smoke for a while after that. Then about, I don't know, 18, 19, I got into the drug phase and pretty much anything I could get my hands on. and I never stopped smoking cannabis since. So, yeah.
Nice, nice. So, when you did start there after the accident, what was the first grow like? I mean, can you
Oh
let us
man,
in? Tell us about
yeah,
that first setup.
I can. So, I have a very good friend who had been growing for years. Um, he had been growing some Cali Mist crossed with at the time was a Rudy Alice that we didn't know was that I didn't know was a Rudy Alice. It was called a Mighty Might, great strain from Maine. And he had also pheno hunted a Durban poison that flowered in 8 weeks instead of like 10 or 11. So back in like, this would have been 90, 98, 99, right around there. He was pumping out this 8 week Durban poison that was really, really nice. So I had moved from my hometown to another place, and I was like, I'm going to grow some of this Durban poison. So I cleaned out our little walk-in closet, right? And I bought probably, because back then, like you didn't go buy an HPS light. You didn't go buy a metal halide light. There were no ceramic metal halides. There were no LEDs. There were tube fluorescents that were just the white bulbs, the 4-footers. And there were like stolen street lights, or you could buy a bunch of like the garage 50 watts or 150 watts. But you would most likely like steal a big like 600 or 1,000 watt street light, or maybe someone's floodlight from somewhere or something. I didn't go that route. I went to the local hardware store and I bought like 50 of those 24 watt over the counter tube lights. Like legit 50 of them. I like, it was crazy. And I screwed those in to the inside of the closet like a Phototron. You remember the old Phototron? The mirrors, and they were just around it. So that's what I had envisioned in my head. So they were on the side, they were on the bottom, they were on the top. There was like 2 little strips you kind of had to like, walk through over some of the lights. And I think I had like, my buddy gave me like 20 seeds, and I think I got like 8 or maybe 10 of them to grow, and they were in these like 3-gallon little buckets. And they came out like shit. They were horrible, but they smoked. Funny story, I was so proud of it. Your first grow, especially being illegal and doing it like all secret, no one knowing. And so here I am. I'm 19 years old. I'm wicked proud of this cannabis that I just grew. So my family had a wedding, so we went down there, and I met, we'll just call him a relative, a relative that I really, really wanted to impress, and so I gave it to him, and he was like, "What's this?" And I go, "Well, I grew this, and I'd like you to try it and tell me what you think." He's like, looking in his hand. Oh, okay. All right. So about an hour and a half, 2 hours goes by, and I noticed that he wasn't around. So he had obviously gone and, rolled up a tinfoil pipe or something like that, or a can, because you didn't carry around a glass pipe back then. And so he comes back, and I can tell his eyes are a little red. And I said, "Hey, did you smoke that?" He said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "Well, what'd you think?" Because it being my first plant, I was proud. And I had smoked it. And I was like, it's all right. He was like, this is the worst shit I have ever smoked in my life. It is trash. And I was like, oh, like my heart just like fell out of my feet. And I was like, son of a bitch. All right. Okay, here we go. So the wedding happened. My cousin happens to be Korean. So we had a bunch of Korean food. And that person asked me to make them a plate of food. And so I did. And they had these giant balls of wasabi, like half the size of like golf balls. So I put a couple of those on there and some other stuff. And I brought the plate over, and he eats a couple things, and he gets that ball of wasabi, and he's looking at it like this. Oh, what's this? And I was like, oh, it's a avocado ball. Go ahead, pop the whole thing in. And man, he popped that in his mouth and started chewing. He got about 4 or 5 chews into it, and you could see his face start to distort and his nostrils flare out, and green drool started pouring down over his beard and snot, and his eyes started watering, and he's, oh, Cedric, you know, just screaming. It was like he got maced, but in the mouth. Oh, so I got him back for calling my shit cannabis.
It's fucking hilarious, man. That is fucking hilarious. As soon as you said the wasabi ball, I was thinking, oh, that shit's hot.
Yeah.
That shit's hot.
Yeah.
Secondly, I want to say, man, how funny I don't know how to say it correctly here, how hilariously similar our first grows sound like they were, to be honest with you. Because it sounds like we picked out like the same recipe, except I didn't lay them on the floor, but it was a bunch of the T12s, the fucking original fat, plant bulbs that you could buy at the fucking wherever you could buy them. Wherever you buy them. That's
the local hardware store.
I remember from there, I'm cutting you off because this is your story. From there, I remember when I first got the fucking original T5s, when I first got a T5, I was like, oh, that is a lot brighter. I'm going to kick ass. And, I bought a couple of T5s before I set up, but let the T8s on the walls. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to crush it this round.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was so fun. It's fun. That's why I'm sitting there smiling so big the whole time you're saying it. I'm like, I did the same fucking thing. This sounds so fucking similar.
I can't believe I feel like possibly our stories are many people's stories for people our age. I'm 40 now, and I think all of us pretty much started off the same way, indoor.
Oh yeah, fucking way too risky to go outdoors back then. You know what I mean? Even now, I still don't like the thought of going outdoors, but I got to get over that shit. I'm tired of watching everybody else grow these trees outdoors, but it's kind of I look at it this way. For me, it's a little bit of a security risk, just because I'm a perpetual. You know what I mean? Why do I want to bait myself outside when I'm doing it all the time? You know what I mean? It just gives them a reason to come around and look the first time and then look again.
Yep. Yeah. I always end up throwing like 1 or 2 plants outside, but my climate here on the coast of Maine. So I live on a Mount Desert Island. It's the 3rd largest island, or maybe 4th largest island on the East Coast. And where I am, we stick out kind of far into the ocean, like for where we are. So we always have this fog bank in the morning. and we always have this fog bank in the afternoon. We get very little like full sunshine. It's always super humid. So we deal with a lot of bud rot and PM like through the whole friggin' like the whole grow. You're either dealing with PM in veg and through flower, or you're dealing with bud rot, like, I don't know, from week 3 or 4 of flower all the way through, just because it's so humid. Stuff doesn't burn off. I find it extremely difficult to grow outdoors. And I always have, but this year I put up a hoop house, and those plants did a lot better, but you know, you still have to deal with pests. You deal with your outdoor pests. You still dealing with so many different variables with outdoors that you don't have to really deal with indoors. And yes, it may be a fuller spectrum plant, and you may get these huge plants, but the secondary issues that come with that just lose the umph, the interest, the gratitude for growing, you know, outdoors.
So we're still getting a little bit of ahead of ourselves here. You know, I've kind of led the story on a little bit myself, but
yeah.
So how did you progress there? What was your next few improvements that you made?
Oh, geez. You know, let's see. So when I moved back to the island, that's what I ended up doing. I grew in that closet for like 2 years. You know, just putting out small little tiny buds, not really knowing any better at the time, because although my friends grew killer cannabis, they weren't about to tell me also how to grow killer cannabis at that time, because then it's, you know, it would have been a direct threat to their livelihood, and that's how it rolled back then. So that's what it was. So you had to go through that trial and error. So when I moved back to the island, I scored some 1,000-watt metal halide and 1,000-watt high pressure sodium. And I was renting this apartment above this garage. It was free electricity. So I had those things fucking blaring up in the guest bedroom. I had built like a fake half wall out of sheetrock, and I had those hooked up, and I was actually growing. I actually just found them the other day, but I was growing what we just called a haze. And unbeknownst to me at the time, nobody liked it. Everybody hated it because it smelled and it tasted like cat piss. And this is back in like 2003, 4, maybe 5. I can't quite remember the year. But now everyone's talking about cat piss. You know what I mean? Like, everyone wants cat piss. And so back then I guess, I don't know for sure, because we didn't have names of plants. We had like Northern Lights and skunk and haze, and that's pretty much all that you grew here back then. You know, you'd get lucky if someone had stuff like the Durban poison my buddy had, or that Cali mist, but they weren't letting cuttings out. They weren't letting seeds out or anything like that. So you were pretty much stuck to growing what you got in bag seed, or if you were lucky enough, someone would let you have a couple seeds if you promised not to go and sell any of it. It was just for you and your head stash, because you'd get your teeth knocked in if they found out you were you were growing it for sale, you know? So yeah, I just kept growing that haze for myself for a long time. I grew some bubble gum. That was my favorite plant to grow back then. Bubblegum was amazing back in the early 2000s. So yeah, I pretty much just grew those for about, I don't know, 6-7 years. Had a kid, took some time off, and then started growing again with living soil. So, and now
So what were you growing? Was you in soil back then?
Yep,
What
I was
was
in
you
soil.
using?
I was in
Always
soil.
soil?
I was your typical dolomite lime, you know, green sand, oyster shell flour, your King Neptune's kelp liquid. Just I can't even remember everything else that I used, but I was on that organic side. So I have a background in organic growing, but I was never, you know, like cannabis isn't my life like it is some other people's. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, I'm a home grower. I'm a commercial fisherman. We have 5 kids. My wife has a business. So if I were to sit down and focus on all of the intricacies of growing cannabis, like some people are able to, you know, my life and my livelihood would fall apart. So I keep it really, really friggin' simple as I can. But I forgot your question.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. Fucking fisherman, huh? That's pretty dangerous livelihood there as well.
It certainly can be, yeah. I mean, yeah, I've lost family members to sea. I've lost friends out to sea. I've been in scary situations myself. You know, I've fished with my father and I fished with my best friend. And my family's been fishing for generations. They actually founded the town that I live in. So we've been here for a really, really long time, either making boats or fishing the sea.
So I can't help but wonder as we sit here talking about that. I mean, a lot of fishes can be a secret sauce in the grows. You know what I mean? Have you ever tried to incorporate some of the stuff off the boat from into your grow? Maybe some of the waters from the storage tanks or shit like that. You know what I mean? That would be,
Not
super fishy.
not any of the waters. I have used like the lobster shells and the crab shells, mussel shells, stuff like that, kelp and seaweed. What I'm kind of interested in trying is getting some of the mud and the dirt from the bottom of the ocean from like my cousin's drag for scallops, which yes is horrible for the bottom of the ocean, but it's our livelihood. You know, you got to kind of do this. I know that'll make some people really, really mad, but I would really like to figure out like that bottom of the ocean that just, I mean, if you think about it, millions and millions and I mean, billions of years old, just sitting there. It's like, maybe it could be black gold for a grow, or it could be absolutely detrimental. I don't know. You know, it could be so full of oils and trash and plastics and stuff like that that it wouldn't be worth touching. But I mean, it would be interesting to run a test on that sort of thing. But as far as fish and stuff, I've never really used any fish products in my grows. For some reason, I'm very sensitive to whatever flavor carries over from like fish meal or fish bone meal or just stuff like that, I can taste it for some reason, and I don't like that. So I don't use any of that in my grow. But yeah, you know, lots of people do, and it works out fantastic for the plants. It's just something that I choose not to.
Nice. Well, a lot of people say the same thing, that, you know, if you don't pull, you know, start flushing it out in time, you know, stop feeding it, it does carry over, you know, with a thick taste in the bud. A lot of people are very sensitive to the fish. Uh, so you're not alone there by any means.
And I think it's more of an oily, like terpene production sort of thing, rather than like a mineral or a nutrient transfer. Because I don't feel like if you're feeding, like if you're using what is it, not OHN, but which is the Korean natural farming with the fish, fresh fish amino or something like that. Did I cut out?
No, you're there.
Oh,
yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, so that's why I'm waiting for
the KNF
somebody
one,
chat. Yeah, I'm not
I can't see. Yeah, I can't see the chat
you can't
at all.
See chat?
No, I don't think so.
No. Well, if you're on a phone, the other.
Yeah, I'm on a phone. No, I can't. That's all right. It's probably better. I don't think I could read and look at you and talk at the same time, to be honest. I'm not multi-talented. I'm horseblind talented. So
they've said nothing but good things, so you should know that.
Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah, well, I'm gonna go back
watching right now. So
oh, that's awesome. Hey. I'm going to go back and watch this and make sure no one said anything shitty about me too. So no, I'm just kidding.
No, nothing but good stuff. Nothing but good stuff.
So I have a question for you. Like Perpetual, do you run the same strain Perpetual?
No.
You're always switching it up?
Yeah. There's times where I carry stuff for a good while, but lately I've just been moving on. I've been Xing out a lot of stuff and just moving forward. But yeah, I've always got at least 15 floating around, but no less than that. I've got to have a mix.
See, where I am, we have a plant count, and I refuse to go medical. I just don't want to be on a list. So we have like a really low plant count of like 3 per person recreational. So I got to really maximize what I have in these tents. And so I find myself growing a strain or a cultivar rather for like maybe 2 or 3 runs so that I get a sense of what its traits are and how long it'll go and get a general idea. And then I'll cut it loose and I'll mark it down whether I really liked it and whether I really like growing it so that I can come back to it another time. Because I run regular seeds and I know that there's some variance, but I feel like it gives you a basic idea of what you're looking at for the cultivar. And I was curious about Perpetual, if you found getting to really know a cultivar helped you like decide which ones to run longer. Like, if I'm asking that right?
Well, most of them I like to tend to let them go anyway. You know, Smiley was asking me like that last night about the ones we've got here in the earth boxes. Yeah, the side by sides, what week they were in, and I was like, I don't write that shit down. They're done when they're done. You know
Yeah,
what
I
I
don't
mean?
write it
And
down.
and I still do that. I get a, you know, it's, I like them. I don't even try check the trichomes anymore with the scope or anything. I go completely by the color of the flowers, the hairs on the calyxes, on the hair, on the buds there. I let them all ripen up because I know, as you know, somebody that's done this for a while, there's that phase as it goes through. If you naturally let it ripen out there, and as you're flushing out, you get a bulk up. There's a nice little bulk up there. And if
Yep.
you start pulling when your hairs are 25, 50%, you pull too quick. You pull too quick. You've screwed yourself out of a good harvest there. So suggested dates by what I've got on the pack. Usually when you buy the pack anyway, you can add a week or two to whatever they've got on that pack anyway. They're kind of just wanting you to get by for the it's a convenience time, I think, more or less. They're wanting you to, they're
I've
fishing for you.
I found myself doing the same thing. Like I don't know if I have good eyesight, but now I just kind of I can look at the plants and see the trichome coloration on the flower. So, I just go by that. I don't need a magnifier. I like not on the leaves, but on the actual calyxes, you can start to see when the amber starts coming in. And I'm a very I don't like much amber on my plant because that's the degradation of THC. So it's not at its peak potency. So I know that when I start to see some amber at the top of the plant, that it doesn't have a whole lot longer left to finish up for the way that I prefer to have my cannabis. So, and through trial and error, I've learned that, which is like, I don't do a lot of the things that I used to do.
Yeah, I'm a little bit on the opposite end of that. The little bit of amber does not bother me at all. I don't think of it as much of a degradation there, but more of a term of ripeness. Uh, I think, yeah, you might get peak flavor with a little bit more cloudiness to clear. That's peak terps, but peak, THC effects. I think that's like more or less in the beauty of the eye of the beholder type thing there. How you like it yourself. And me myself, I might be taking myself out a little bit out of the effects, but like I said, I would, I would trade a little bit of effects for more. You know what I mean?
What one
Letting them
effect
buds
on
brighten up
one
and
effect
getting
on this side for one effect on this side.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but yeah,
and
I,
and that's all
so
total personal preference, Absolutely.
I would have more product. That's the way I'm looking at it myself. I would rather have a little bit. I'd trade a little bit of the effects for more weight. You know what I mean? That's what I'm harvesting. That's I've taken the time to grow this, and I want to get as much out of it as I can naturally. So
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's why I let it go the extra distance myself. That's and my patients don't seem to mind either. So if they were, I guess I would adjust for them. If they were
right.
to, but so far so good.
Yeah, no.
Everybody seemed to be happy.
I mean, you're still going, so I mean, there's something to it, right? Hey, little shout out to Weedus207. His I got a little pop up that said he subscribed to my YouTube channel. So big up to Weedus. I know you're watching, man. Thank you.
Very
Like I
cool
said,
dude
I
right
can't
there.
see chat, so I'll only see you people if you subscribe to my YouTube channel.
There you go. And you know what? To be fair enough, he just put a link to your YouTube channel out as you were saying that.
So, hey, look at that.
Wow.
That's awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I don't know. I've got some I don't have you just missed me on harvest. I harvested one tent about 2 weeks ago and the other tent about a week ago. So I've redone my beds, as you can see, I've got my cover crop in and stuff like that. This bed is going to be running some, hey, Richard Lamb, thank you. I grew some, thank you. I see you guys, I see you. But I'm going to be running some tester cultivar for boneyard seeds in here. I've got them germinating right now. But
nice. What kind of light is that right there?
This is the Fluence Spider 2X. So this is their lowest spider version. It pulls 345 watts from the wall. So it's not an overly strong light. It's only putting out probably about maybe 850 U-moles, maybe 900 at the most, pushing it if you're like, 2 or 3 inches. But it's enough for a hobbyist. It's enough to, not bounce the electricity bill too much. So in that respect, I wanted to bounce the electricity bill. So I went and got a 500 watt lit lighting strip for the 5x5. And then I also bought a 500 watt ceramic metal halide to compare the two. So wifey was I wouldn't say happy, but hip grower. How's it going, man? Thank you.
So yeah, it is what it is. They pay you back after time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
In time.
It's it definitely produces it's worth the investment. I don't feel like I spent money. I feel like I invested money in a light, which is a good feeling to have. So I have nothing but good things to say about the company and put out an A1 product. So, and my flower, the terpenes are fantastic, which I think is more of the focus of this company, is focusing on not as much yield, but focusing more on terpene production and what spectrum really fulfills those needs rather than the full yield spectrum. So I'm a taste guy. Corrado, how's it going?
That's why we're in this, isn't it? If we weren't in it for taste, we would be buying everybody else's swag, wouldn't we?
Well, weed should taste good, right?
It should very much taste good.
It
should very much taste good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I used to be one of those guys shooting for yield, because I thought that's what really, really mattered. I didn't realize the quality also, years ago. I didn't realize that the what quality actually was, what it meant, what it felt like. So, now that I'm in this style grow, I feel like I'm starting to climb that mountain of knowledge, figuring out what quality is and what kind of product I want to produce for myself.
So we were talking about the grow there, and you were in organics at that time. So what did make you want to switch up? How long before you did go to like a living bed there?
Well, so I grew in my apartment from 2005 to 2011. Then I took 4 years off and started growing again in early 2016. And that's maybe 2017. And that's when I went and I saw Blue, and he showed me his living soil, and I was sold. I mean, it was, his flower was so impressive. I hadn't seen something like that since I was really young, and my friend that was on Dead Tour was growing in his closet and showed me his grow. It was the most beautiful thing I'd seen. So I was like, oh, and all you have to do is add water to this, and you don't have to dump your soil out. And there are worms in there doing functionable things. Sold. So without really knowing much about living soil, I just went and bought everything and threw it into a container. And I did it the impatient way. I went and bought a bunch of bag soils like Roots Organic and Strawberry Fields, and some bags of a Maine company called First Amendment soil company out of northern Maine. They make a organic super soil and like 4 different types of soils. I think they were bought out by a company called Masshole Soil Company, if you've heard of them. But yeah, I threw all those in a bag. My first run was like really, really horrible just because it was so hot. You know, there was so much organic matter just going on. It was like a big friggin' compost box, basically, I would imagine. And over the last 3.5, 4 years, it's I've gradually built this to what it is now. Just adding mulches and letting the worms do their thing. Utilizing like in container composting with avocado tech, aka fruit drop theory. But yeah, that the thing that made me want to change was just seeing Blue and seeing how much, he might as well have just like curb stomped me with how much money I was spending on soil alone. Buying soil for the grows was ridiculous. So yeah, hats off to him, man. He opened my eyes to what I consider the onion effect of growing cannabis. You peel back one layer and there's just another layer, and you peel that back and there's another layer. You peel back that one and there's another layer. And that's what I feel living soil really brings to the cannabis world. That bottle fed plants just don't hit that mark. They don't quite have the onion effect. They have like, they're more like those Russian dolls, you take them out and there's one inside. They're sort of like that. But with an onion, there's just so many little micro layers, whereas though I feel like nutrient fed is trying to hit a point for a certain purpose, that being sales rather than medicine. Personally, in my opinion.
Yay and nay on that. Yay and nay on that. It could be a little bit more to scale. I like growing in cocoa and salts more for the control. And again, just because I know, well, for instance, you're living soil here. You're talking about years of going better on a bed, and it's not always better. There's a couple runs where it might not be so great. Could spin out of control. You know, and then if it spins out of control, then you don't know what the fuck's going on. That's I've been in that situation a couple of times, you know, where things have kind of locked up, where things could have been deficient on one thing or another. I keep playing with this damn camera. Sorry about that.
No
And
worries.
things get, you know, a little screwy where you can, and when my cocoa, things get a little whack out of whack now, things get locked up. All I got to do is flush that out, a couple good runs of some nice pH water. I'm right back into it. You know what I mean? I can be back to
I
good
hear
health
that.
in a day or two.
I totally hear
And
that.
and
And
that's
after,
actually what made me come back to cocoa, because I actually there's, I don't want to get too much into my history of growing here, but you know what I mean. Uh, I tried to come back to soil, like it was uh, probably 2 years ago, two maybe 3 years ago. I tried to come back to like a super soil, you know what I mean, and I was liking it. I was happy because I was actually up high and I couldn't use dirt. It was too heavy when I was up high. I'm on
yeah,
ground level now and I could use dirt. So I came back to the soil thinking, yeah, I can get back into the super soil, and I liked it. But then I came in, I went down a couple of patients and then up a few patients, and it wasn't expected. So I kind of got into the hotter super soil, and things locked up. I got into where it's a fucking mess. Everything yellowed right quick. pH fucking got out of control. It was a mess. But my answer to that was two things. A, I don't have time to let fucking the super soil cook again. And B, uh, I don't fucking I don't want to go through this again. So I went right back to cocoa. I went right back to cocoa.
yeah.
You know, and
No, I
and
hear it.
so
I
things were
hear what you're
good.
saying. And, like, and this is what I tell people about living soil. Like, it can be very frustrating, um, if you get caught trying to apply the same principles that you applied to cocoa growing or another medium of growing to uh, living soil. Even as far as watering all the way through. And that's your most common issue with soil grows is always generally watering. Not so much of a deficiency, not so much of a abundancy, but more of a lockout from a watering issue. And it can drive some of the best growers absolutely insane. And they'll never. I've seen people just say, "Fuck it, nope, not doing it, no more." And that it is what it is. Like, I do it because it's comfortable for me. I don't knock people necessarily that grow with bottled nutrients. It's just not. It's just not my preferred method. So, and some people are great at it. Some people put out a product that you wouldn't even be able to tell was chemically grown or living soil grown because they understand about feeding their plant. You know, most people overfeed their plant and have a shitty, nasty tasting coal of nugget. When they're done smoking it. This like mineral ridden little turd. So, but kudos off to the people that know how to feed their plants properly with bottled nutrients. So.
I have nothing against the soil, that's for sure, and I may slip back into it again. You
Well, with
know,
those earth
Smiley's method,
boxes,
the earth boxes, they did do nice. They did
yeah,
do nice. Uh, and eh, I've got my drawbacks one way or another on them, but that's that's nor here nor there.
yeah. I
But
mean, you're gonna.
I, you know, I my thing about the soil is once I get to the soil, I want to get to kind of where you're at. I was hats off to the gentleman Intergalactic Gardens last night for recycling soil. Man, that'd be that. I'd be interested in that. You know what I mean? If knew somewhere around here where I could throw my all root balls in, I'd throw them in my truck and dump them off at somebody that wanted to rework that shit, and make it proper again.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
But
leave my
I'm not there. I keep doing it, but that's where I want to be. If I were going to go with soil, I'd like to be in something that I'm reusing, reamending, and keeping like a living soil like you're doing. But the only thing about that is it doesn't fit into my perpetual for my impatience. You know what I'm saying? It's
I do.
hard to keep a living soil and a perpetual going. Like, to be honest with you, talk numbers here. I'm a caregiver here in Michigan. So you asked about how many strains I can keep. Well, I have 5 patients plus myself. Each patient, I'm allowed 12 plants. So
Yep.
allotment of 72, throughout the garden. I don't even come anywhere close to that anymore because I go bigger plants nowadays versus, you know, what I can just jam into a tent.
Right.
But with the kind of rotation, it's hard to keep a bed. You know what I mean? Dedicate this tent to throwing some babies in there, letting them veg up, and then flower all in that area, and then starting anew. It doesn't work like that. It goes from boom, 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 boom. Now you're ready to flower. And
Right.
sometimes even the system can be so tight as one comes out, one goes in, one comes out, one goes in. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I
that would
do.
be virtually impossible with a
You
living
know,
soil bed,
the only way
I
you could
think.
do it with the only way you could do it with living soil is if you ran solo cup clones and you would root the clones in the solo cup. You would just have a living soil tent that unfortunately just runs 12-12, and you would plop those in and just run them right from clone. Veg them to where you want them to be, where you want them to start flower, and just, I mean, so in a 4x4 bed, if I did it that way, I could fit at least 24 small plants in this bed and flower them at, I don't know, a foot tall, maybe. Let's say a foot tall, 15 inches tall, in the solo cups, and probably not have any problem. Just transplant them right in and flip them right to flower. It would be the same methodology as pretty much running a sea of green with small bags. But I could see that working, as a perpetual, or maybe stagger it, so that one, and do them in rows, so that one row finishes. But I'm just longboarding here, just throwing stuff out there. So
Right, right, right. Yeah, I totally I can see that, and I just for me as a long term grower, I've kind of gotten to know that the root system. The bigger the root system, the bigger the fruits. There is a whole lot of truth to that, and if I'm only putting solo cup moms into a bed, then my roots are only what I can. They're gonna spread out in week 1 or 2, and then whatever weight. I mean, I'm losing a lot of energy for it to be producing roots. Them
yeah,
first couple of weeks of
as a
flower.
as a caregiver, I would completely agree with you. As a care, no, I'm not a caregiver, but as talk from your point of view, I would absolutely agree with you. Yeah, Blue and I were actually talking about how neat it would be to do beds, but for the individual cultivar that you're running. Say you're running like the blueberry cultivar, right? Or a blueberry cultivar. Like introducing into that bed some sort of blueberry sod or blueberry inspired soil dwelling, growing bush or something like that, for like a terpene enriched beds, meaning having something with similar terpenes growing in the bed with it, so that perhaps in theory that those chemicals, those nutrients will already kind of be intermingling in the veg process. You know, those signals from the rhizosphere and stuff like that, the root exudates will, we don't know how all that works. So in theory, who knows, maybe they're talking to each other and they're like, yo, blueberry sod, give me some of that natural friggin' blueberry terp. Oh yeah, here you go. Or
I think that
or growing
I think
some
that
mango,
happens.
and utilizing, feeding your worms mangoes or something like that, or um, you know, skunk, like feed your bed skunk piss or something. I don't know what, but finding stuff like that has the similar terpene profile, and growing that in the bed, primarily. What got us thinking about that was, I worked 20 years in fine dining restaurants, and he's a classically trained chef. And so we were talking about different foods, and one of my favorite foods I've ever had was this all apple fed pig from this place in Pennsylvania. It was the best pork I have ever had in my life. And I'm from Maine. I've eaten a lot of pork. And so I just got thinking, I was like, all apple fed. I wonder if that translates into other things. And so we started talking about blueberry sod and stuff like that. And it would be an interesting experiment, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, I believe you're onto something there myself. That they can pass things through the soil like that. They communicate through the soil through the mycelium network anyway, as far as nutrients go in that living soil. So why
Right.
can't they pass terps? To be honest with
you. Yeah, or maybe not necessarily past terps, but the signals being like, hey, you're in a friendly environment to produce this terpene. We're not challenging you. You are welcome here. Produce all of it you want. Like, we're all in la la land together. There is no pine intrusion that's going to, like when you grow outdoors in a pine outside in some pine forest, what's your cannabis taste like? It tastes like pine.
Well, strain specific, I would think, but you could maybe influence the terps a little bit, and that's one of the reasons. Companion plants. I believe the people that actually use companion plants in their gardens. I believe those scents that come off some of the companion plants, like you're saying, can bounce off the cannabis plant and be like, I don't like that. You know what I mean? I'm going to try to drown you out with these terps of my own. I very much think a lot of that goes on. I've said that a lot of times about the skunk too. Is we took it indoors and took away the threat, like you're saying. You know what I mean, of everything outside. That's what happened to the skunk. It wasn't, I don't think we got rid of it because of cultivation, it was too loud. I think we took it indoors and took away the threat.
Yeah, right. So where do we go from here?
Well, we could go to like plant training. I mean, how do you like to train your plants? I see I appreciate that thing, by the way. Is that a snow fence that you got there? A sturdy snow fence? That's what it looks like.
So that is lobster trap wire. So we're lobstermen up here, and we build our own lobster traps. So there's a local company that basically provides. They also build traps, but they provide fishermen with cut pieces of wire. So I'm able to order these 4x4 flattened pieces of lobster trap wire that are welded 12 gauge coated wire with 1.5 inch squares. So if you think about the 1.5 inch, that's only, that big. So what I get is at 15 inches of a plant, I get a complete horizontal, continuous horizontal growth. I don't have any wasted vertical growth until I let it. So it allows me to really space out the branches and try and fill as many of these little squares as possible with a potential cola,
So I can see that being a real benefit, but man, is it, I like the idea of the 1.5 inch squares. There's plenty of room to tuck. Anytime she pops up, you get that square to tuck.
Yeah, and it's
Kurt,
nice because you can just you can stick your arm in the plant and just go like this and clear the whole plant. You don't have to take each square and go through it and poke each one down. You just it's pretty nice. The only downfall is so for me, the way I have my tent set up, it's a little too close to the wall. So I can't open my side door. So I can't quite get to this back right-hand corner. If I had to do it over again, I would set it up a little different, obviously, so I could get in there. But that's the only real cumbersome part about growing like this. And since it is in a 170-gallon bed, I'm not moving it anytime soon, so I don't have to worry about that. I don't really defoliate, so I don't have to get in there too much to clear anything out, because I focus on just those 12-inch colas. So
yeah, I like it. It's definitely I like the system definitely a lot better than the Scrog, that's for sure. But definitely there's much work when it comes to harvest, that's for sure. That's
but
the only downside of the Scrog, in my opinion.
yeah, it's I find it pleasant because the way that I lollipop everything underneath the screen, so I don't deal with any larf. And so when I go through, and then I also clear out about 2 inches, maybe 3 inches above the screen. So when I go through, I just cut a branch, hang it, cut a branch, hang it, cut a branch, hang it. Now I'll have usually I don't know, anywhere from 100 to 170 branches out of a tent, but they're super easy to trim. They're just all flower. It's just, when they're dry, because I don't wet trim, so I dry trim. So when they're dry, it's just, I have one of those little brushes, those trim brushes, and I just, and I'm done with that branch. Yeah, it's pretty it's pretty easy. Like I said, I'm a self-professed very lazy grower. That's why I use this. That's why I use the blue mat system. That's why I use the trim brush. That's why I grow only 12-inch colas. I want to get out of this doing as little work and as little worry as possible. So, and I think I have it set up that way.
There's nothing wrong with that. For sure.
Yeah.
I don't call it lazy. I would call that smart and efficient.
Well, thank you. I've been called worse.
So, do you do anything with as far as hash extracts with your material, your leftovers, your trim? Do you
I do.
butters or
I
anything like that?
So we make a lot of tinctures. My wife is a holistic healer, so we make a lot of
Nice.
tinctures for ourselves. Um, she does a lot of work with people with Lyme disease. She actually works with few people in the cannabis industry. So yeah, I do. I make butter. I make coconut oil. I've really gotten into using vegetable glycerin and doing cold extraction tinctures. Uh, that's been one of my favorites. It to me it tastes the best. Also, Blue got me into ultrasonic extraction through cavitation. Not, are you familiar with that?
A little bit. Tell me about it.
So it's basically what it is it's like a jewelry cleaner, and you'll put your liquid in there, either your oil or your alcohol or your vegetable glycerin or whichever alcohol or whichever liquid you decide to use. And you put your flour in there. You turn this machine on, and what it does is it forms these microscopic bubbles, and it's called cavitation, where it'll travel and connect to the plant, and the ultrasonic frequency bursts the trichomes without bursting the cellular structure of the plant. So what you get is this almost pure, cloudy, translucent tincture with absolutely zero chlorophyll in it. Um, and just a very terpene rich product. And it's cool to watch too. So it's just a very clean product. So showed me how to do that, and that's been something I've been playing around with, different methods and different liquids and stuff.
So you just kind of put together a couple pieces for me. As far as like in the hash world, there's been a lot of talk on like in Bubble Man's, you know, hash church on like new separation methods, and there's been a lot of talk about sonic separating like that, and both dry and I've always Indra when Indra talks of it, it's always a dry sonic shake. But I've never even thought about doing a liquid. Now, why couldn't you do the same thing? But in a cold water with a ultrasonic quick shake, and
You
then
can.
instead of then sift,
You absolutely can. So
at that point
funny,
now sift heads.
really funny that we're talking about this at this particular moment. So what I was thinking was, you mentioned the dry sift method. The ultrasonic shake is what I was thinking about in a vacuum chamber. And then, I was talking to my mechanical engineering friend, and he said, well, for that to work, there really needs to be cavitation. There needs to be a liquid around it for that ultrasonic to travel and burst the trichomes. Otherwise, you're just shaking the plant, and you're going to get plant matter. So you might as well just tumble it in a micron tumbler. So what I got to thinking about was, all right, what about I call it harmonic harvesting, right? There are frequencies that break glass, right? Crack glass. You can shatter glass with a sound. So what if you made a soundproof vacuum box that you're able to hang either a whole plant or branches or something like that, turn your frequency up, which I would imagine would have to be that it wouldn't be like a bass, a subwoofer, boom, 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 boom. although that may help in some way at a slow beat, shake things a little bit. But that high frequency, that high sound, figure out which frequency bursts the trichome heads, or knocks them off, or resonate. That resonant frequency that's going to shake just the trichomes and not the actual plant. So that's something I've been talking about. I've heard about is it bubble bag, bubble dude?
Bubble Man. Yeah.
Bubble Man. I've heard about Bubble Man. I've never seen his shows, and honestly, I don't know anything about him, but everyone's always talking about Bubble Man and Hash Church. And I should probably check those out, because I'm probably talking about something that they've been talking about for years. But it's cool that you brought that up, because I was just thinking about that this week. Like, harmonic harvesting. Yeah.
It's funny that you bring up the process that you're talking about is a process that I've talked about the last few months. Really similar, but it's kind of in the opposite direction. We're like flip-flopped on what we're thinking there. But I'll get to that. But I wanna say this. I think I believe a lot in frequency in general.
That's where the Mayans are, man.
The Akashic records and stuff like that. But I think it's funny that with that being said, all the knowledge is out there. I think that it happens to be that we're all kind of resonating on that level, to where that we're accessing that knowledge all at the same time. You know what I mean? The telephone wasn't invented just by Tesla. It was him and a few others that kind of were on the simultaneously that level at the same time.
Wasn't it like an Indian scientist way before Tesla and those guys that like
it could have been
discovered,
but there was him and a Russian scientist that were going Tesla was Russian, but there was another one in Russia that was going back.
He was Serbian.
Was it Serbian? There we go.
Živeli brate.
But I think that it's funny that, I think people access our knowledge is given to multiple people at the same time. It isn't necessarily one. I think it's kind of spread out to make sure the gift is gotten out there. But I think when it comes to the hash process there, I think it's kind of a base effect at first to pop it off. You know what I mean? To pop everything off, a higher or low frequency, whoop, 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 to pop it off. And then I think as the material comes, I think you can finer separate it by twisting the frequency up to a higher, maybe getting like the crappier shit to float when the other stuff could like fall. You know what I mean? I think with playing with the frequency, you could get them to separate.
Harmonic statics or something like that. Static separation.
Yeah, once they're separated, you might be able to take just even a simple blast of air to knock off that dirt, and then drop the frequency and let the clean fall. Something like that. What would be, there's.
Hey, let's go wormhole for a second. What would be really cool is if we could figure out the magnetized frequency of trichomes and rods, and be able to just run it down the plant and pull them right off. Because I mean, everything has like some realm of magnetism. We all have electricity running through us. We all have that sort of stuff. So
yeah, I think we're right on the cusp of something like that, to be honest with you. And I can't wait to. I do believe everything boils down to a frequency. Frequency just changes forms at the higher rate or the slower rate that it is. turns from sound to light to matter. You know what I mean?
That's
And then,
that's that's all we are. We're all just, I mean, we're all just frequency. We're all just light. We're all just, different matters, different forms of different physical interpretations of light. I think that's where the Mayans are. They vibed out, man. They were like, "Fuck you guys, we're out of here. Bye bye. We're vibing out." Took off.
it could be. That could be.
Yeah, right.
We're definitely speeding up the rhythm of our frequency and maybe coming back to that time, that dimension.
I feel like we are. There seems to be a little awakening of more of a spiritual side of things, more of a natural interpretation of things, more of a natural acceptance of things. There seems to be a little bit more of a push for that than the returning to the slower paced world, instead of just like pounding away at it as fast as we can go and making the mistakes that come along with going too fast. So
I definitely agree with you. And I, when you said that your wife was a holistic healer, there, I think that's pretty awesome. That I think that's the way myself. I'd rather, treat myself with herbs and natural remedies first, and then seek out medicine after the fact if all else fails. But I think that's I don't I think we're just coming to that point where cannabis. I don't think it's any coincidence that cannabis has come back to the forefront, and psychedelics are coming back into the picture. And again, as we talk about the Kashik record and all this other stuff, I think that these two items are lessons. They're here to teach us the lessons of that, or what's coming to the next phase and how to access it all. So I don't think it's any coincidence that these two things, amongst other things, have come back to this point and kind of went, hey, you guys need to look back to the earth and more natural remedies to heal yourself, other than the toxic bullshit that is being pushed on you. I don't think it's any coincidence at all, to be honest with you.
Stop taking the natural stuff we've given you, turning it into poison and saying that it's better for you. I mean, so what my wife and I like to say is that Western medicine is emergency medicine, whereas though Eastern medicine and herbalist practicing and apothecary sort of stuff like that is all about preventative and maintenance medicine. Obviously, if you have a broken arm, you're not going to rub some fucking spearmint on it and it's going to get better. You need to go get a cast and get it figured out. But, something like a rash, you don't need to go get, 7 different steroids and 4 different shots and stuff like that. Like there are way better natural remedies to put on your body to heal yourself than the things they make that say will heal you. And cannabis is probably one of the main. There should be one of the main ingredients in every single one. And that once we figure out, once the world figures out more about how the terpene interaction mixes with your personal chemotypes, and we're able to label that, and people understand what chemotypes they carry and how they interact with certain terpenes, and so they can really, really get to that medicinal effect, rather than saying, oh, high THC or high CBD. They can say, okay, I know that limonene or limonene, you know, me when I smoke it makes me fucking paranoid as shit. I know that oxaline helps me with my appetite, or my seizures or something. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where these terpenes come into play. Those are the real medicinal effects. That's where the entourage really gets deep. That's when CBD and CBN and THC. Those are like the suitcase. Those are your suitcase that you're carrying. The terpenes and the flavonoids. Those are the clothes inside. Those are your underwear. Those are your socks. That's your toothpaste. That's everything you really, really need and want. So it's going to be cool when they start figuring that out, when the research is able to be done extensively and shared, how those interactions happen.
Yeah, I sat and listened to this guy speak today on terpeneless weed and how it was just as good as terpene bud. And I gave the guy every bit of an open ear, but I disagreed. As he said, I'm like, no, you need the terps. And he's like, well, when you're burning it, you're losing them to the heat anyway, so they're not necessarily the volatile term. You're not taking in the whole benefits of them because they're being burnt up and lost to the air as they're being combusted. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I can see that to an extent, some of them being lost to combustion. But then again, I don't know. I just refused. He kind of went back and forth saying that they just had no effect on the overall high, is what he was saying, and I'm like, I just gotta disagree. Disagree because that's how I choose my cannabis, is by them terps. That's how I know what's right for me. So you take them out of the picture, how can I judge what's right?
By medicinal purposes, if you're only going by like what provides the high, then I suppose that he would be more right than he is wrong. I would say that he's not walking the whole bridge. He's just on the bike path. You know what I mean? He's just on the walkway. He's not utilizing the whole bridge. And he's just focused on that one walkway. He's missing it. And that's what I'm saying. Like, yes, THC and CBD, those are the entourage effect. They are the suitcase. Those are what carries the true medical medicinal effect. But within the terpenes are those, like I said, the suitcase, the clothes. They're what carries those cannabinoids throughout our body. We have a lot more learning and studying to do to figure out how it works. This is just my sense of how it works, but
Well, I guess as I listen to you speak about it, I kind of think about it this way too. And again, I agree with you. I think he's just choosing his own path because, again, the same guy that I was listening to speak was also selling a product that was terpeneless. So I think you're right. He's kind of choosing his path and not going down the whole way. Yeah. But the way I kind of see it is, terpenes are both oil-based and water-soluble. So if the terpenes are oil-based, even though it's been combusted, it's still leaving back that the oil from the terpenes still left behind in a resinous oil-type form. Like as we see it burn down the flower, you can see the oils. That's the terpenes and everything have to be mixed up in the resins and oils that come back into the joint. So how could that not be, you know what I
Combusting.
mean,
Yeah.
medicinal? Yeah, medicinal as it's
Right.
being combusted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are volatile terps that, I mean, that you might miss out on at above 70 degrees, but I mean, you miss out on those when it hits 70 degrees on a hot day. You miss out on those when you harvest and the temperature hits 70 degrees. Like, those gas off. Like, that's part of cannabis. No one retains those terpenes.
Okay,
Like,
I get. I wish we're fighting this fight against Cat that ain't even here, but it's still a valid. They're all valid points. But
yeah.
again, I kind of think of it this way too. Um, Even though, like, say we got the joint right here, you know what I mean? Terpenes are being burned off out here, but back here, the terpenes are still present in the flower, and you just as you would have terpenes in your hand and smelling them and being able to get effects off them. Why aren't you, as you're inhaling and sucking in the terps from the flower? You know what I mean? They're still there. You're still breathing them in. There's still benefits there.
Yeah.
Before and after combustion. Why would you want to take those away?
Uh, because you grow in an illegal state and you do not want your cannabis to smell. That's the only reason I can think of.
Well, that was an after product. It wasn't like you're growing, you know, terpene-less weed. It had to go through a process.
Oh,
You
they
know what I
took all
mean?
the terpenes out of it?
They were stripping the terpenes, yeah. And he was just saying, like, kind of like your point, like well, what if you wanted to, like, you're around your kids and you wanted to hang back and take a quick puff? Well, they make pens for that. You know
You
what I mean?
shouldn't
They
be
make
smoking
shit for
around
that.
your
What?
fucking kids, you ding dong.
This his words, not mine.
Right?
His
No,
words,
I
not
know, I
mine.
know, I know. Jesus Christ. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I that doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
could,
Maybe they think it's a niche and it's gonna be something, and there might be a product line, like a sales line for it somewhere in the future, and they're just trying to hit it before it comes. But
oh,
I,
it was
I can't foresee it.
funny. He was selling it as like the all purpose cannabis. It was terpene. It was smellless. You could smoke it and get high wherever you wanted to get high without notice, and then you could eat it. You could eat it and get the effects because obviously he had reached decarboxylated it. I know I screwed that up, but I'm not doing it again.
That's fine. I can't say it either.
uh,
I always tail it
Obviously
off.
he's bringing it up to temperature, but then he was talking about being able to crumble it up and use it as like a spice or an herb. I'm thinking, why are you turning this into like a multi-product? We could do this at home if we wanted to do this. Why are you,
Yeah, do you know how many times I've done that on accident?
I couldn't see it
Fucking,
myself.
fucking
I'd listen to it
left
for
my cannabis in the
entertainment,
goddamn stove like a pizza.
yeah, I guess. I just thought it was entertaining though that there was somebody out there doing it on a commercial level like that, just wanted to strip everything out of it, put it back on the market. I was like, ugh.
They must have had
just
another
don't see it.
product that they were using the terps with or something.
Had to have been.
It was probably it had to have been a secondary product, like what a hemp biomass would be, to a hemp harvest. They must have cleaned the terpenes off for some reason to sell or whatever. Wholesale sell to add into pens or something like that. And then
Well, that was his other argument too, is that if he wanted to introduce terps back into it, he could add into whatever he wanted it to be. His spice of whatever. And I thought, well, that's even shittier. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
that's like
because it's
cheating.
terps don't mean you can. Yeah, yeah. It was funny because I was listening to it on the Clubhouse app today in one of the cannabis forums, and it was the same thing. And we all let him list. We all let him plead his case, but man, when he was done talking, man, they sure fucking ripped into him afterwards. Man, they were
Oh
like, "Yeah,
man.
we could use fucking cards. Yeah, fuck all that shit." But man, it was.
Well, I mean, everybody's different. That's, I guess that's the nicest thing I can say while I'm live. Everyone, everyone has their niche. Everyone has their purpose.
Oh, the
This
other
guy's,
reason in being for use was he was trying to say maybe grandma didn't want to smell like cannabis while she was ingesting. So she wanted to go for like a terpless cannabis. And I was like,
oh,
maybe, but still,
so you're
she's
going for
cheating
that,
herself.
huge, like 5 years of life left market, spending their hard-earned Medicaid money on fucking terpless cannabis to hide from their fucking kids and grandkids who they don't like anyways, and they're like on their end of life, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the thing I'm gonna worry about is my kids and grandkids smelling cannabis after all these years.
I'm on the other end of that too, man. I'm like, fucking, you've made it that far. If you want to fucking stink up your house like fucking weed, you've earned that right.
Yeah, I've already
Have
told
at
people,
it.
if I get that old and I know I'm like going out before I can't do anything, I'm going out almost Timothy Leary style. I'm going out with a hot mix and a 10 strip.
Yeah.
Yep. I've never taken the H train before, and so I figured I'll do it on the day that I die. The day I know I'm gonna die, a 10 strip and the H train, and
And to be honest with you, it might put you to the right place. You know what I mean? It might just set you off on the right frequency to send you to the next
or
dimension.
some DMT. I know you guys in one of the wormholes were talking about DMT, and man, that stuff is that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, I would, if I could access it, I would try it in a second. I know its capabilities. I would
Yeah,
gladly
our body
ingest.
our body only releases that at two times in our lives. It releases it when we're born, and it releases it when we die. So I wonder what sort of like intercosmic travel you would start by going out on a DMT trip. You'd have to time it pretty well because it doesn't last very long. But passing away while that DMT in your body is also released, like, man, where the places you'll go, Dr. Seuss style.
Yeah, the tone venom's another one that I think I would try it too. I hate to say it, but I would try
The
the
what?
toad venom.
Oh, the
It's
toad.
basically,
Oh yeah.
yeah, not the licking the toad,
Oh,
not the licking. It's a secretion or basically
oh,
the semen. They
yeah. You
dry it
spit.
out and smoke it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would try it. I would try
yeah.
it. I can't believe that there's been somebody out there that has. You know,
It's
who's to the
so
firsties on
here's
this?
so here's here's what happened. I was up in Sugarloaf, which is a ski mountain in Western Maine, and I was with my buddy who was the same friend that was growing the Durban poison that I was talking about earlier. And so I was 1920. I was 20, so this was 2000. after my fall. And we were up at his house in Sugarloaf in the mountains, and we smoked some DMT. And I went, and I was instantly at the base of the tree of life. Like, I was standing at the base of the tree of life. And this is before Avatar. So when Avatar came out and it panned back from to the tree, you know, that they all lived under, I had a flashback, because that's exactly where I was. It was like, it was insane. And so from that tree, I was standing underneath it, and out of the nooks and crannies, all these eyes started popping out, and these voices started saying, "Oh, you're here. You're finally here. You made it. Oh, hey, he's here. He's here." And like every animal in the world started like poking its head out of the different crevices of the roots and stuff. And then I was just about to say something, and again, sucked right back to reality. And then I started puking my brains out. It was the best puking experience I've ever had in my life. It felt like I was puking musical notes. It was, if I could puke like that every time, I'd just puke forever. But it was quite an experience. It was beautiful.
Oh, you must be talking closely about, I don't know, the wormhole that was right before Hardy Farms or Hardy Gear, the wormhole before Hardy Gear. I kind of went deep into like psychedelics and our perception of reality. How you know, we don't know. We honestly don't know. One person that we think is crazy. I mean, this DMT trip's a perfect example. You know, from the outside, anybody walking by would look at you and go, "He's fucking nuts." But what's going on inside your head is two different things. You're just unable to, you know, communicate, pass on what's going on. It's too much. It's overload. You know what I mean? You just couldn't put it into words.
It's a lot of light.
That some of these people that are what we call mentally ill aren't stuck. You know what I mean? Basically, in their radio station isn't quite dialed in. Maybe they do have one foot into some shit that we don't see, that we, you know, we're like, yeah, you can. But, you know, if we were to take a psychedelic trip, we might be, aha, I can see you poor fucker. You're stuck.
And
you're
that's
stuck.
That's why psychedelics got such a bad name, you know, because they were like, oh, that person took acid one time and ended up crazy like your Uncle Joe, you know, like they associated craziness with psychedelics, and it's actually completely the opposite. Like most you know, back then they didn't understand autism, and so they would think that people that were autistic were crazy, when in actuality people with autism are fucking geniuses, you know, like true there's some highly intelligent people that just can't communicate in the way that we're used to, you know. I've worked with some autistic kids that just are amazing. They're amazingly brilliant people, and that's like one of those things that I completely agree with you. You know, I think sometimes there's a line where crazy is crazy, but for the most part, things that we don't understand as far as like autism and such things like that, like I truly believe that they are they're vibing higher. They're at a higher frequency. I think it's cool. Like I think it's cool. You know, I would like to. I wouldn't want to be stuck alone somewhere by myself in my head, not being able to communicate. But if I could end communicating with people, like, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's, there's too, what will unlock in this round of psychedelics is going to be
It's the awakening,
next
man.
phase. It is. It really
And
is.
I hope everyone on the chat, and I hope we all realize it. There is an awakening going on, and we're alive during it. Just we're alive for the beginning of it. It's pretty cool to realize it, to see it unfold.
Yeah, fucking for sure. There's an we could get real wormhole rabbit hole.
Yeah. There's time for that later, right?
Yeah. Well, it's been good so far, man. Everybody in chat's fucking been loving the conversation, by the way.
And don't forget, I'm going through this.
They haven't said nothing bad. That's for sure. That's right.
Yeah.
But there is I'm trying not to go too deep down another wormhole here, but I guess I should just skip it, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, psychedelics and all that good stuff. I guess we'll pop in on a good rabbit hole one night when we're all on psychedelics. I almost took some tonight. I've got my micro right here.
I was going to as well. I was like, Jesus, should I? I don't know. I don't want my first time. I don't want to kind of like get all nervous and like start like talking about like nothing and not making any sense. So, I mean, I know I'm going to do that anyways. So no, you better not eat any. You better not.
That's funny that we're on the same page like that. I was been waiting to do it all night long. I was going to do it earlier tonight too. And I was like, I want to, but I better not. But it sounds like we would have been right on the same page there.
Yeah, probably. Either we would have been really, really chatting it up, or we would have just been here kind of like staring at each other like, whoa. Because, I sometimes accidentally sometimes over microdose.
I almost don't think it's possible. I've had a few nights where I've done a lot of these pretty heavily microdose stuff, heavy dosed, if you will.
Yeah.
Some of the better ones. There's been a couple of them that we've talked pre-show that it was going to happen. And it's like we always seem to like link, and it always ends up into some really great conversation. It's never been the lockup.
Now I have to go now I have to go watch through them and try and figure out which ones are which. All 377, is that it? Is there 72 or something like that?
331 tonight.
331,
I believe.
Man.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, dude. That's pretty awesome.
Well, I can tell you some good ones right off the bat, but there's been quite a few other than the one. Excuse me, obvious ones. Tanazi. Both of Tanazi Gardens episode. The first one we were tripping balls pretty good. And we went heavy-handed pre-show. We both went, we're like, oh, you took that? Oh, okay. Well, we kind of matched up a little bit heavier before the show. Went in deeper. And we were tripping them pretty hard. And then the second time he was on, what do you got there?
This is a little of the flower rosin that I press. This is from harvest I did the other day up at my other grow that I do for a buddy. It's the Tomahawk Chem from Greenpoint Seeds.
Second one he's on with Keith of Black Sails and another gentleman. And there was a bunch of them on, and we were all tripping balls that night. Endo 11, we're really tripping balls. He's fucking poor Endo had to get up like several times and get off camera and towel off. At one point, he left for like 10 minutes. He went the full gauntlet. We went like 5 hours minimum, just tripping balls. And he had to get up at one time. I lost him for like 10 minutes. He comes back and he's like beat red. And he's like, I got lost in the mirror. I got lost in the mirror. I'm like, no worries, man. We're good. We're good. There's a couple of them where Chad's like, look at him. He's got that mushroom smile. And I'm like, I go back and look at it. I'm just like,
what? The other night, Tony from Boneyard and I were on Future Cannabis Project with Peter. And I guess Tony can talk for hours. He's very good at talking, and he knows a lot, so he has things to fill up lots of time. So, I was taking a dab while he was talking, and then Peter decided that he was going to take a dab, and I guess right after that, like, we didn't hear from Peter for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and he like basically fell asleep right after his dab, hosting the show. He turned the camera off and he just let Tony talk, and he fucking boom, he like passed out for like an hour. It's pretty funny. But
I've been there. I have done it.
Yeah,
it makes me feel better.
Whenever your camera goes away, I'm like, what's he up to?
It's funny because I get that a lot. As soon as I camera up, people are like, what the fuck? What's Eagle doing? What's Eagle doing?
Yeah.
There's times where I've actually taken it. There's one episode where it's in the title. And for the longest time, that was like one of the most watched episodes. I put right in there, I'm like, such and such, boom, and Gronkowski stopping, and I take a nap. And I fucking passed out for like 45 minutes. Just camera right up. Fucking woke back up.
Was that the New Year's one? That New Year's show was great. That was awesome. I like went to sleep and woke up and you guys were all still going. I was like, I think I watched you pretty much all day long. It was awesome.
No, it wasn't that one. But definitely a few.
Yeah.
But, man, there was one the other night where I've got some tincture. It's a mushroom tincture.
Oh, yeah.
And that shit. And you put a little bit under the tongue, one of the dropper under the tongue, and just let it sit there. Doesn't taste very good, but it hits hard.
Yeah, so that's a double extraction. So you have to double extract with mushrooms, and especially psilocybin, to get their effects, like lion's mane and chaga and stuff like that. I just know that because of my wife. But yeah, those tinctures are super, super strong.
So I took one before the show, the droplet the other day, and man, like it was a wormhole. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go in, take some, and then I'm like, it's about 20 minutes into the show, and I can fucking. Everybody's like, oh, he's got mushroom face. Here he goes. He's got mushroom face again. And so I'm like, fuck it. I go in and I'm like, So it comes like 4:20, and thank goodness everybody was still hanging out, because I was thinking to myself, man, if everybody bails on me right now, there's no fucking way I can do shout outs. And luckily everybody
Yeah.
hung out for like another 45 minutes. And
Starting
fucking, there was one night I did them on the Michigan Bros Grow Show when I did that for a while. But there was one episode where I'm tripping balls, and it's right before like the night, like, you know, the do your shout outs, you know, your goodbyes.
Yeah.
It goes from they're going around, and it's like coming up to me, and it just, I'm looking into the camera, and I can see like that red eye in there, and it just seemed like a fucking freight train coming at me. Like, I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. They're just like getting right up to me, and I'm like, out of here, click, quit. And they're like, well, I guess Eagle's out of here. And I'm like sitting here, I'm still watching the show, and I'm like, just like I had stepped out of like way of a real train and shit. It was like, oh, thank goodness I got out of the way of that. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious. So I'll eat some mushrooms, and I'm a big golfer. I've played ever since I was young. I played in tournaments over in Europe in high school, and so I play indoor golf, and I'll like maybe a little over microdose when I go and play indoor golf, and man, nothing like it. It's so much fun.
I bet. I've never even thought about it, but that would be kick ass.
Yeah. So, you know, there'll be a couple of us playing, and, you know, we'll all eat just a little bit and play golf and fucking lots of tracers and stuff.
I could see that being a good time right there. Good time.
Yeah, man.
You know, so do you prefer to smoke cannabis on mushrooms? That's another thing. People say, no, I don't like to smoke weed. I do. I actually like to smoke some weed on mushrooms.
I never, let's see if I can say this right. I never haven't. So I don't know what it would be like to not.
Okay.
Did that work? Did that work?
That works.
Works. Okay. So yeah, I've always smoked. So I know some people are different, you know, it affects some people, like it blows their minds up, intensifies, but I don't find that to be the case with myself. So I've always enjoyed smoking cannabis on the mushrooms.
Let me ask you this, because I find it to be more and more common than I thought. I thought I was like just that weird fucker that
I'm not circumcised.
No. No.
Oh.
I thought I was the only one that ever did this, and it was
I did not circumcise myself. Sorry, man. Sorry. I'm just
taking some mushrooms and going to sleep. And that's one of the best trips I've ever had, or best experiences.
No problem. I have never had a problem falling asleep on any hallucinogen. When Sydney comes to town, no problems falling asleep. Salvia, even though it doesn't last very long, the after effects might keep you up. No problem. I guess I'm pretty fortunate that way.
Well, I mean, like I've been like mid or peak trip.
Peak. Yeah,
fell
peak
asleep and then fucking had some of the best dream state sleep, lucid sleep, to where I had like a good journey, woke up in a great place. Fuck, there was one time I woke up seeing aura, so I could see an aura for an hour or two, and it was just one of the best experiences I've ever had on mushrooms.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember much of the things I did when I was on hallucinogens, because As a person with, I would consider myself to have an addictive personality. I tend to do too much of those types of fun things. So, yeah, I was not sure what you said to trigger me saying that.
We were talking about trips there and just all about hallucinations.
Yeah.
So I got a little off myself, a little squirreled myself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good times I've had on some though myself, man. I've actually taken a few vacations on some acid. I mean, like actual vacations, like the whole trip while I was gone, like 1 day, 2 days, and out of town trips are fun. Out of
Yeah.
town trips can be fun.
I went to this festival called Harvest Fest in Maine. It's back in the early 2000s, and man, my I think I think I still had my trachea in, actually, like a tube in my throat, and I was smoking joints through it, and I think I had like basically run out of like usable money, and I had run out of basically drugs to do, and it was like I had only been there like 5 hours. I didn't plan very well, or I had a lot of fun in those 5 hours. But I ran into my buddy again, the same friend that grew that 8-week Durban poison, and he happened to have some liquid. And he's like, "Hey man, how's it going?" He gave me a big hit off his pipe. I was like, "Oh, thanks." He's like, "What's going on?" It's like, "Oh, I ran out of money, just kind of bad." And he's like, "Oh, I got you. Open up your mouth." And he had remember those little sweet breath drops? They're like the Listerine strips, but they were from like the 2000s. So that was full of liquid, and he took that thing and he squirted probably half the bottle in my mouth. And I was lucky that festival was 3 days long, because I don't remember it until I left. Like I have no idea what I did. No idea. I could have got jerked off by a camp counselor in the woods somewhere, and I wouldn't even remembered it. I have no idea. I'll probably get a flashback like when I'm 75, and I'll be like, "Oh no, my God!" But
did it happen or did it not happen?
Yeah, it'll be like this repressed memory when I have Alzheimer's. I'll be like, "No, get away from me. No, you may not. Get your mouth away from there."
Oh,
but
man.
Yeah,
liquid can be pretty crazy. Yeah,
I wouldn't remember.
Had a whole summer like that at one point, where it was all kind of liquid. Hippie chick caught up with a hippie chick for a summer there.
Yeah,
just as fast as she could. I told that story before. Basically, long story short, I don't even know if she exists. She came in. Yeah, it was all that big of a trip, that big of a, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Haven't seen her since.
Day one. It was, she disappeared just like that. It was like a whole summer of hanging out with her, and the first day was a trip, last day was a trip, gone. You know what I mean? Yeah, never seen her again. Once she was gone, she was gone.
Yep. Just be thankful for the time you had, man.
Crazy times, man. They were good times. So.
Yeah, I was my senior year in high school, and like that next year until I fell. I was big into like ecstasy and acid. Those were my candy striping. Those were my fun things to do. And I was in high school one time, and it was, you know, I had eaten like a bean and a little piece of blotter like in second period, and it was getting towards the end of the day, and I was really, really high, and the vice principal comes up and he's like, my hearing was kind of off, and he was like, little white rabbit. My eyes are about like this, pupils about, my eyes look like I'm a devil. They're just like straight up black. There is no white of my eyes. It's just black pupil. I'm like, what? And all I can hear is white rabbit. And he's, he's a vice principal. So he's always looking at you like the father from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs with just his eyebrows showing. He always looks angry. And so finally I'm like, he said it 3 or 4 times. And I just kept going, what? Finally, I'm like, I don't understand what you are saying to me. And he goes, who drives the little white rabbit? And he was asking who was leaving school. Like he was asking me who was leaving school in a little white rabbit. And I was like tripping my balls off. And like, those are the things that happen when I trip. Like, and I find, I don't know if that's just a theory or if that always happens to people, but like just this most random fucked up things happen to me when I'm tripping. Like, for no reason, the police will show up somewhere where I am and be like, hey, I want to have a long conversation with you while you're high on acid or something. It's like, you never talked to me in my life before. Why?
That's funny. I'd stay home if that were the case. Holy cow.
Yeah, right.
Nobody likes that intense conversation with the police on a trip like that. That's no fun.
No, it's pretty freaky. It's pretty freaky.
No. Good time, so.
Are there any questions from the group or the comment section?
Well, it takes 20 seconds for them to reply. So far, they've been enjoying the stories.
Oh, good.
So far.
Yeah,
this has been a good interview, by the way. I've had, this has been a lot of fun. Like I said beforehand, I don't put these together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how's it been on your end? Have you had a good time tonight?
I've had a blast. Honestly, I would have I had no idea that you didn't have some sort of like at least question that you went down, because you always seem like to have something to ask someone to keep things rolling. And as a viewer, it's always super appreciated that there's not like any lag time just staring at each other. It's super cool. And to answer your question, yes, I've had a super fun time being on. I don't know if I've taught anyone anything. I don't really know. That wasn't really my reason for being on. I just wanted to say hi and introduce myself on the video. And like, yeah, I've had a blast. It's been cool.
Well, that is the point behind these things. You know what I mean? If it's a chance to get to know the person behind the screen names that we chat with, night after night, because there is a deeper side to all of us besides, what little bit that we put into our chats and stuff. And that's the fun part about introducing yourself, is now, at least for me and everybody else that's done this and went this gauntlet, is from now forth, when you see the names, you don't see the name anymore. You kind of see the face and the words. You hear the words. It's no more, you know what I mean? It takes away from that. So in this process, sometimes we do get to learn a lot about the person and their methods, what they're doing in their gardens, but we get to learn about the person themselves, and that's what it's about. That's what this thing's about, is getting to know the person behind the screen names. And
Yeah,
it makes this community all the stronger. It
it
really
really
does, man.
it
Now
does.
that
It's like our own little mycelium network, you know.
Yeah, and it does, So I'm super glad that you've had fun tonight and came to do this. And uh, hopefully that you do come popping in the wormholes now, because now you
Oh,
get to now you get
I
wormhole access.
I know the other night when I don't know if your interview might have ended early or whatever, but it wasn't like you had a while until you were starting the wormhole or the rabbit hole, whichever one it goes to. But you're like, oh, if anyone wants to jump on. I didn't realize you were talking about that. I thought you were talking about to fill in time to go until then. And then I was like, oh shit. I was like, I feel like a dummy. But oh well.
I'm glad that you stepped up and took the night, man. Moreover, man, it does. It helps us every time somebody that steps up from the community and does this. It gives us another night to hang out. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
buys us another night.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah, I just looked at the time and I was like, geez, I'm just wondering what time it was. And here it's almost 2 o'clock. And I was like, wow, holy shit, it doesn't even feel like it's been that long.
no, it goes
So
really fast.
it really
How
does.
long did you? How you in the beginning? You didn't sound like you'd be going that long, but again, we went a couple 2.5
Yeah, man.
hours
You
easy.
bring the chat out of me, which I appreciate. Like I was saying, generally I don't, I don't talk a whole lot. I say things with purpose. So I don't find myself just talking for the sake of talking. So I'm glad you pulled that. I'm glad you pulled that out of me. The being able to sustainably talk for a little bit, not lose track too bad.
Oh no, man! It's been a great night, man. It's been a great night. I'm looking forward to getting you on some of these rabbit holes. So I hope that you don't disappoint, man. I
No,
hope
man,
that I like to
I
let.
won't. I'll pop on. I really like the ones that are so like, being a fisherman, my time schedule. I wake up anywhere from 3 o'clock in the morning you know until about 6. That's my time frame. So when I wake up that early and I turn you on, you guys are all on. It's like, oh, cool. I can go downstairs. I can open my tent. I can listen to you guys. I can work down here. I can play with my plants. I can, do my dabs. I can press some flour if I want to. But it's cool to have some company. You know.
And now you can let us in. Give
Yeah.
us
Right.
garden tours. Show us what you're pressing. That'd be
Yeah. I'll.
awesome, man.
One of these days, I'll do a press for you guys. I've got this really fire cultivar right now, and it's the Royal Chem from Greenpoint Seeds, and it's pressing out at 33% flower rosin, which is a really really big yield for flower rosin. Not hash rosin or dry sift, but just pressing flower. And the terpene profile is exquisite. It's like a
So is
roasted,
it?
like a roasted lime, and with a little like of gasoline. Just one of those over like a finely roasted lime. When you have that fajita pan that's really hot that comes out in the restaurant, and you squirt the lime on it, and that steam that comes up, it's like, oh, it's kind of burny, but it's nice and acidic and sweet and tangy all at the same time. Like, oh,
So with that being said, do you prefer the flower rosin? That's one thing that I can't I can't see wasting my beautiful hash, pressing it into rosin. I myself, if I were to want to press stuff, I would press flour because I would want all the oils, all the good stuff in it. You know what I mean? I would hate, why am I filtering it when I want to press, get all the extract out of it? That's my opinion. But
Yeah,
what's your opinion, bud?
that's a so I am a fan of flower rosin. I think if you have the proper environment and the proper equipment, that fresh frozen can be just as good, if not a lot better than flour itself, because you are retaining those oils and stuff, and then you're washing them off. And then if you have the right, like if you're using a freeze dryer, you know, you're retaining more of that oil than you're losing. So, that being said, I love pressing flour, especially, but I'll only press certain flour. Like if I always test them out, and if I have something that presses at 20 to 24, 5%, then I'll press it out and smoke a little bit of it, but I know I'm going to get more use from the flour itself. But on this Royal Chem that's pressing out 33%, it's not the tightest of flour. I had some issues during flour, some timing issues, but it's frosty as all fuck all. So I know that I'm getting more from the flour rosin for use than I would from the flour. So that's kind of how I judge, like, if I'm going to press it, if I'm not going to press it, so on and so forth.
You know, that's one thing. I'm never stuck on one type of uh, ingested method or the other, man. I
Yeah.
Sometimes I like the heady high of dabs, and then there's times where you couldn't pull a flower out of my hand for nothing. Yeah, I just like that nice sit down time, relax time of a joint, and taking my
I do
time. And
I do notice with my throat stuff that since I've been smoking flower rosin or bubble rosin, live rosin, that when I go back to smoking flower, like smoking that joint that I was smoking, like I can feel it in my throat. I can hear it in my voice. Just the very, very heavy, just from smoking more of the organic material than I would be from the rosin. It just feels more constricted than from smoking rosin. So I do notice that. Don't get me wrong, I love my flower, but you know, I do notice that as I get older, and you know.
so I got to tell you, for somebody that has smoked out the injury in their neck there, that has to qualify you as one of the badass cannabis smokers that I've ever come across, man.
Oh man, no,
That,
that's yeah.
that's when you're smoking like that, you have got a love for this thing like nobody else.
I and you know, that's the whole thing. Like I'd like people to know that if I am a little abrasive towards you in chat or in a Facebook group or on some social media platform, you know, it's only out of love for this plant. You know, um, we've taken so many wrong turns with this plant that the ship needs to be righted. And if you know, I I do have a tendency to be abrasive when it comes to discussing certain technicalities and viewpoints of cannabis. And so for those of you that I have been, you know, it comes from a place of love. It's like when your dad hits you because he loves you.
Oh, there's nowhere that we're all entitled to our opinions.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I think, you know, is nice about this community is we respect each other's opinions. We're allowed to have discussions, but at the end of the night, we smoke a joint, we fucking go home. All right, we turn it off, and then we come back the next night and bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, looking for the next conversation.
And that's the funniest thing. Like most chances, like if the interactions were more like this or in person, and they would be disagreements, and you're right, we'd end up smoking together. But you know, that I don't know. I've told plenty of people to go jerk off in a corner before, and you know.
I can be quite abrasive myself. It's funny because I use the word "fucker" as a lot of times as terms of as a term of endearment.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of times if I call you fucker, hey, you fucker, man, it's out of love. I mean, I've had people, I've used it towards my kids, and you know, it's in a loving way too.
Let's not lie. Let's not lie. We've all called our kids little fuckers in a loving way, like and in a not so loving way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I used it the other night in chat. I called somebody a fucker. It was a lot of times I call 420 because he's on my level with the fucker thing. But yeah. I think I called somebody else a fucker, and chat just like stopped. Like, did he just really call somebody a fucker?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's a good thing. Trust me, it's not bad. I don't mean it as a bad way.
Yeah, like the tone totally changes when it's a bad thing. You'll like if you hear me say fucker enough, you'll know when it's a bad thing. Because it'll probably be preceded by a motherfucker.
You know, it can still be a good thing with a motherfucker included on it, to be honest with you. Oh, man. Yes. There was one show where I don't even want to say the word because every time I say the word, it just comes to, it's not even a bad word, but it just happens. So my response to what was happening was to try to figure it out because some people were trying to say, no, I want to try to bring twat back. That's a fun word to say.
I love twat. That's a great word.
It's a fun word to say.
It's a great word. We have a lot of twat waffle usage here. Twat waffle is big here.
Nice. I'm glad. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out what was causing the issue. Some were saying, well, it's the swear word in the title. Or you guys were swearing. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think that's it. It's in the title. I don't think it's that. So I challenged it. It was like one night I was kind of pissy because it happened. This incident happened like 5 nights in a row where I was like getting in trouble for some, I'm not even going to say it because it happens. But I couldn't figure it out. So I popped on it like a late night. It was a rabbit hole back then. They were rabbit holes back then. It's changed. It's a wormhole now, but it was the rabbit hole. We changed it because everybody was using it. Everywhere you turned, it was rabbit hole, rabbit hole, rabbit hole. We're like, now it's the wormhole. But it was the rabbit hole then. So I get on and I'm like, you know what? It can't be the vulgar language. So I went on and I played, it was a quick episode, maybe 45 minutes. I played Wheeler Walker. every Wheeler Walker song I could find that had fucking vulgarity in it. Which, if you've ever listened to Wheeler Walker Jr., he's hilarious, funny stuff. You got to
I'm
listen to it.
unfamiliar.
It's country, and he's like, one of his songs is like, "Sit on my face." Sit on my face because he too picky. Ride my mouth till your pussy gets sticky. Come on. Anyway, I like smoking pot a lot. There's a bunch of them. I played all of them, sang them all. I encourage chat to say fuck. I'm like, come on, everybody. 1, 2, 3, right fucking chat. Couldn't get the issue. This issue didn't happen. I'm like, that ain't it. But I did that night. I don't know. I could have overdid the amount of fucks on one show that night.
Oh, man.
Wasn't the issue. Out of all the shows I did, that one never got no trouble at
Nothing.
all. I'm like, yeah, nothing. I'm like, see, told you guys it wasn't that. But I don't know.
Hey, can you give me 1 second to go grab something to drink?
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'll just point you guys at the garden.
There you go. I'll just talk chat for a minute.
I'll be back in just a second.
What's up for 2420 for our firms? I seen ya, Steve. Justin Station for 2420 again. Oh man, some good juice. Get some juice myself. How you guys doing tonight? Smoking Grow Phaser, GMO. What's up, guys? How you doing? What are you smoking on? Always the dead air question, I guess. Bake with shake, baby. What was that? I couldn't hear you. You guys are right on with that. Chronic Wonders. Welcome to the show. Hopefully, we haven't scared you off with a little bit of potty talk. Welcome to the show.
All right.
I was looking back at chat. Chat's full of twats. Full of twat jokes.
Full of twats and twat waffles. That's awesome. Oh, man. So, let's see. Right now I'm just kind of, as far as tent wise, like I'm just waiting for my cover crop to come in, waiting for these seedlings to get big enough to transplant into this bed, and then I'm just gonna rock them out and take out the males and see what I get for females. So
what strains are you dropping? Did we cover that? What's in the garden?
This particular strain is going to be a tester strain from Boneyard Seeds. So I think it's the Space Cheese tester run that he's doing. So that'll be in this bed. And then I have a couple different things. I have some cherry pie. I have some Bruce Banner #3. I'm going to have some Mac 1 on its way. And something I'm unfamiliar with, a divorce cake crossed with Zittles, Z Skittles. So we'll see.
These breeders are fucking hilarious on some of these names they're putting out there. So we've got wedding cake and we've got divorce cake now. There's
I guess, and there's lava cake.
So is
pound cake.
I would have to think that the divorce cake would have to be like completely on the other spectrum.
Yeah,
as wedding cake. I would think wedding cake would have to be like nice and sweet, and I don't know. But the divorce cake would have to be like all loud and
halitosis and halitosis fucking stinky feet and white truffles.
Super loud and just leave that taste in your mouth. And it'd have to be, yeah, night and day from wedding to divorce cake. I don't know. I've never heard of it. I think that's funny though. I just stuck.
Yeah, I've never had the wedding cake. I have some right now that I have going up at the other grow. So like I was saying, up here in Maine, like I don't know, I know at least for myself, I was never exposed to genetics in any sort of way, even up until, you know, I stopped growing when I had my kid in 2011 until I started again. Like, you just weren't exposed to genetics up this way. It was, you got what someone else got, or you got a bag seed. Like, you didn't have dispensaries that you got bag seed with that were getting verified cuts from California or anything like that. Like, you grew what you got in a bag that you really liked, and hopefully you had a seed in it. Most of the times you did. So, you know, just learning about the breeders and the cultivars that have popped up in the last, let's even say 7 years. Let's go just 7 years, is mind numbing. Like, I don't even want to understand any of them. I don't need just to remember the names and blah blah blah. Like, that doesn't make me the kind of grower that I am, you know, or that I want to be. So it was a lot easier, like I was saying, when we were younger, back in the 2000s and late 90s and stuff. Like, you know, that Durban, it was like Durban poison. It was NL Haze or NL5 crossed with skunk number 1. It was NL crossed with Haze. It was, you know, that was what you were getting. And up until recently, like, you know, all of a sudden people in Maine like found out about genetics, and like we're growing some fucking killer cannabis up this way now. Like, not, we always grew killer cannabis, but it was always the same kind of stuff. And now that there's some variety and like genetics have been worked and they're available, man, Maine is like a sleeper state. There's some like really fun, just like craft beer, you know, there's some really, really fine craft beers coming out of Maine, and there's some really, really fine cannabis coming out of Maine.
That's the beauty of some partial legalization. There is that right there, the refining of just some great cannabis. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't grow anything big. I've never done any breeding, but seeing and learning from all these people that are breeders that are actually putting out, like, hey, if you want to try this, let's start you off on the right foot. Let's not lead you astray. Let's not let you just figure it out on yourself and, you know, not look and just waste your time and other people's time and put something out that's just not what it should be. You know, let's start you off proper. I don't even know where to start off, but the people that do, kudos to you for helping people like me at least think about and start to want to learn how to maybe just do that for ourselves. You know, something that we've done in seed form that we really liked, that we would like to maybe cross with something else that we really liked. You know, to know how to do that and be able to do that just adds another tool to a home grower's toolbox. And after all, that's what we're after is just more tools in our toolbox, more things to be able to use.
It's that onion that you're referring to, man. That's the beauty of this thing, man, is like every time you seem to get on that keel where you kind of might be bored of it or whatever, there's that notch you can take it up. There's always another avenue that cannabis seems to draw you in deeper and deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's like we were saying before, you know, it's a lifestyle. It's a life altering activity. And if it isn't, then you're very possibly doing it wrong or doing it for the wrong reasons, you know?
Yeah. I've had a lifelong relationship with this plant. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't plan on giving it up anytime soon.
No, and I think we're fortunate to be able to say that. You know, a lot of people aren't in the position that we're in. You go like, as far as being able to say that we grew way back then and we never got caught. You know, if we had gotten caught, we'd be right in fucking jail, you know, still to this day. Or at least I know I would. And I know a lot of people that, you know, lost everything they had back in the early 2000s for growing just a few plants. So it's we're fortunate to be here today and to be able to say we got out with our tails to legalization, you know. So pour a little out for the ones we lost along the way, right? There's certainly been a lot of them.
Well, hopefully, as you know, decriminalization comes on, we can start expunging some records and letting some people out for what
that would be
been punished for.
Yeah, that would be ideal. You know, and then that gets into the whole corporate America sort of thing, and American Medical Association and DuPont and all those big players, you know, they holding back what could have been saving the world for so long. You know, holding it back on purpose. So.
Chat's hilarious, by the way. I gotta relate this just because it was it pertains to our conversation. But Bake with Shake Baby says the difference between wedding cake and divorce cake, it's the same wedding cake, but you only get half.
Half the yield.
Yeah.
Or does it double in weight once you marry it?
That's a good one too. I believe that's phenotype. It comes down to phenotype.
Yeah, it depends which sister you got.
Yeah. Oh man.
I don't know if I can do that on air. I can do it right now.
Dude, they chat is still going on. They've got slutty divorce cake. Yeah. They got it. They are still going on about the cakes.
That's good. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, man. I mean, I've got I've got this vault of genetics. You know, so one of my favorite cultivars of all time has been, as far as flavor, has been Samango from Soma's Sacred Seeds. And I have a pack that was redone by these guys over at Golden Nuggets Genetics. One guy I think is actually out of Michigan. His name's Jason Tobin. The other guy's out of Orono, Maine, which is like an hour and a half away from me north. And so they have these redone feminized line of Samango, and man, I will tell you what, this is the best tasting cannabis I have had, other than some actual Hawaiian pineapple, in ever since I've started smoking. It's pretty crazy. So I'm thinking about growing that, but I've got crazy amounts of genetics. Like I've got a bunch of cap gear. I got a bunch of weed should taste good gear. You know, I've got some Mean Gene from Mendocino, Freeborn, the Ghost OG, and Sky Jarro. And the cool thing about the Sky Jarro is I was talking to, I think it was Tony was telling, no, I think it was Mean Gene. He said that the Sky Jarro is has the same father as the fabled root beer. So he said, you know, through that you may be able to find a line of the similar root beer pheno. So that's always exciting. So if anyone can grab any stuff with Sky Jarro in it, just know that, you know, that's a possibility for you. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to figure out what I want to run next. I mean, I have like Tony's gear up the wazoo. I've just got like packs and packs and packs of DDA boneyard gear.
Not a bad problem.
No, I got a hat, I got a t-shirt. He was nice enough to send me those. But yeah, I've got some Royal Kush, Mandelbrot's Royal Kush that I want to run outdoors. I ran some Royal Spill from Emerald Mountain Legacy, which is a Royal 7 and Royal 8 mixture with Triple X OG. But it's like I was saying, how I don't like to grow outdoors in Maine. So this is the first plant that I've grown outdoors that did not have any PM, did not have any pests, and did not have any bud rot. And it finished late September is when I cut it. It was all ready to go. So it and that was the Royal Spill from Emerald Mountain Legacy. So I'm going to run this Royal Kush, which is, you know, the line that it was bred from, and hope that turns out really well outside. Because I grow in hugelkultur beds outdoors. You familiar with hugelkultur?
A little bit.
Yeah. So I built these 4x4 beds. They look like some little kid built them with sticks. Those are like my walls. I built them with I went out in the woods and I found sticks and I just crisscrossed them all around. And went and found a bunch of broken logs and, you know, leaf mold and stuff like that, and threw it in there with some straw and some Pro Mix and stuck some plants in there. And they're the best plants I've ever grown outdoors. I was absolutely blown away.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely would like to try to get out there at some point myself to the outdoors.
Yeah, have you ever been to Maine?
No.
No?
Hopefully someday.
Well, if you get out here, I'll take you out lobstering. Take you out to catch some lobster, buddy. Jesus, Bob.
I'll take you up on that. I ever get out that way, that's for sure.
We'll see if you get seasick.
Ooh, that might be a possibility. I get squirmy as hell in big water.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot different when you can't see shore.
That's what gets me.
Yeah. Well, you know,
that's what gets me. Yeah.
That's why they say harbors and bays are for sportsmen, you know?
That's for sure. Once the land gets out of, and it, you know, what's funny is it can be an unswimmable distance for me too. There's just something about that security blanket of knowing that it's, you know, right there. I can
It's
see
called
it.
hope.
It gives me some comfort. But once it's out of fucking, I can believe that. I can believe that.
Yeah. You know, we go by the up here this way. The water, it'll warm up for a couple months, but that's about it. Usually, it's about 50 degrees or less. And so we have this. It's said this old saying. It's the 50-50 rule, which is if you fall out of a boat in the water, let's see, the water temperature is 50 degrees. You have a 50% chance of being able to swim 50 yards. Most people, before you either catch hypothermia or just give up, or your muscles tense up and you can't swim anymore because they're, you know, all the acid and stuff goes to your limbs and retracts and muscle contractions and stuff. So, yeah. So if you fall in the water at 50 degrees, 50 yards away from shore, you have a 50% chance of making it. Yeah. Well, you got a 50% chance of making it. So that's better than a 0% chance.
True that.
Yeah.
The optimistic side of it.
Yeah, but we'll keep you out of the water. Put a life jacket on you.
Aye.
We'll just dress you up in a survival suit and kind of like bungee cord you to the side of the wheelhouse.
It's kind of a double-edged sword. I hate the big water, but I do like adrenaline. So
do you like
you can't
roller
get the
coasters?
adrenaline unless you like, oh, I love roller coasters. Anything that'll scare the shit out of me, basically.
See, I'm not a roller coaster guy, and I hate airplanes. Hate them with a passion.
First time I was up in a plane, I got a window seat, and the whole time I was up in that thing, I couldn't think of anything else but jumping out of that motherfucker. And I still haven't skydived yet, but it's high on the list.
Well, I'm glad you don't fly them.
Right.
You'd be like that Indo-Asian 617 flight with that co-pilot just. No,
it's a different feeling when I would think when you're just jumping out of a perfectly good plane. I guess.
Yeah, I don't see the sense in it. I won't be doing it. I'll leave that up to you different frequency type of people. Well, you're way more aerodynamic too. You might, you know.
The bald head just slide through like a bullet.
Yes. Hit a couple
Hopefully
clouds.
That's how it works.
You'll hit a couple clouds. You have to wipe your head off.
My luck, it will be like I'll just get hit with everything just on the way down.
Some birds, some lightning, thunder, some airplane shit. Like someone flushes the Joe Dirt meteoroid, kind of catches it on the ankle on the way down.
Fucking top of my melon be all covered in June bugs. painful June bugs.
Yeah. So how'd he die? Did he die from the landing? No, actually it was blunt force trauma from June bugs. He was dead well before he hit the ground.
He was going so fast, one went right through the top of his melon, through his chin.
Yeah, you would think terminal velocity. a June bug would just explode, but nope. He must have had a soft spot, went right through him down to his toes.
Yeah, hopefully it won't go like that. Hopefully it doesn't go like that. You never know, though.
Well, man, I have been up since 4:30, so
That's quite a run.
yeah, I think I have to start wrapping it up and calling it an evening or a morning, or I'm not even quite sure.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and going the distance. You went for quite a long time, man, and I appreciate it, man. I'm more than I can even tell you.
I'm grateful for you saying that. I really do appreciate that from my heart, and you know, I'm glad you can put a face to the name now.
Me too, and I'm glad everybody else can as well. And please do keep that Zoom number, that invitation that I sent you.
Okay.
Please keep that. That is the key. That is the to the rabbit hole, the wormhole, whatever you want to call it. It's the wormhole now. That's the key to the wormhole. And anytime you want to come, you don't feel like you need me to reach out and go, come on. If you just wake up and we're on, you're like, hey, I want to get on with the motherfuckers at Smoke a Joint. That's all you need. That's all you need. That's all you need.
Well, I've looked forward to being on your show, and I've really looked forward to interacting with you and interacting with your other panel members. Man, you've had some like amazing panel members on here, and people that keep showing up, that really like hanging out with you and just talking shit with Eagle Gardens. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool what you've put together. And now, I mean, I was happy to be a part of it through chat, and now I'm just even more grateful to be a part of it through face to face. So hats off.
Looking forward to it, my friend. And I wish I would have known you were heading up to that, because you just gave me probably one of the best sound bites I could ask for. But now I got to turn around, and now that I'm recording, I've got to ask you for your sound bite again. But could you please give me a sound bite, my friend? This is episode 331. Yeah, hopefully you know what I'm kind of looking for.
Yeah. I mean, as far as episode 331 goes, this is Chetterbob13. And I am just having the greatest time talking shit with Eagle Gardens here on his YouTube station. It's been a pleasure. So I love it.
Well, thank you again, sir, man. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to getting you in one of these wormholes and getting you to chat with everybody else. It's going to be a good time. Man. And I know everybody else has enjoyed this, because there's still 94 watching, and we've peaked over 100 tonight. I think we topped like a 110 on a Thursday night, this late. So
that's pretty cool for this late.
Says a lot about you in this conversation.
No, man, that's all you. That's all you. Yeah, people were like, who the fuck is this asshole that is always running his face on chat? We're gonna see what he looks like. Oh, he looks like an asshole too. God damn it. No, not
even. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at all the good shit that has been said tonight. And I hope you do go back and watch, because
I will.
There's been a lot of good stuff said. So
I appreciate it. No, I the chat is always, it's a great place to interact with people. I've really enjoyed being a part of your community. So there are lots of good people, lots of real good people. And what's cool is that there are quite a few people that follow you from Maine, man. Like, you've got quite a few people from Maine.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome to hear, man. Look forward to hearing from more of you guys. That's for sure.
Absolutely. All right, dude. I am gonna sign off. I appreciate it very much. Maybe if I wake up in 2 hours and you're still on with the wormhole or something like that, if you're even doing it, then I'll watch you. But for now, have a great night. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Me too. Thank you, my friend. Get some rest and see you soon.
Right on.
Good night. You guys, what a great episode. Hopefully you guys, a lot of you guys did subscribe to his YouTube channel. Pretty awesome. If you guys aren't following him on Instagram, you should be under the same name, Chetterbob13. What a great guy. What an amazing conversation. I look forward to seeing him again. Well, that does end this portion of tonight's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Well, I know you guys enjoyed it by all the many that are still hanging out. But it is time for another wormhole. Give me a few minutes to use the restroom and get my stuff together, and we'll come back and do 331.5, the wormhole. Look forward to seeing most of you there. Those of you that aren't going to travel along over through the wormhole, thank you very much for hanging out. I greatly appreciate your time as well. Hopefully you know this routine. Please do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. I'm a living, breathing example of that. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in tonight, Friday night. Mole Vision 420 will be here at 11:30 with me when we're doing the spotlight again. But that does end this one. So please tune into the wormhole in about 5-10 minutes. Look forward to seeing you. But if not, thank you for tuning in.